Good evening, friends, and welcome to another edition of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace. You know the drill. We're retired New York City police detectives and 9/11 World Trade Center first responders. If you like all things true crime related from the police detective's perspective, you're in the right spot. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you get all things DutyRon and my partner right here, Ed Wallace, when we go live or upload another video. Hey, tonight we're going to talk about the triple murder by Christopher Preciado. His murder trial, day 1 and day 2, has commenced this week. And we're going to give you a recap of this heinous case that we covered from 2023. If you don't remember this case, we covered it extensively. Ed and I, we went over many aspects of this case. The victims, Savannah Soto, 18 years young, a mother pregnant 9 months to full term. She was set to be induced on the next day, December 22nd, 2023. She never made it to the hospital. Her boyfriend, the baby's father, Matthew Guerra, 22 years old, were both shot execution style, the back of the head and in various parts of the body. Her unborn child, Fabian, also was terminated by this heinous act. And this all went back to December. They last were seen December 21st, 2023. I believe that was a Thursday. And this case is horrific out of San Antonio, Texas. Ed, your thoughts, trial day 1 and 2. It started on St. Patty's Day.
Yeah, they picked a jury in one day and started the trial yesterday, and they're already into some serious testimony. They had the crime scene investigator on. They had a person from Bexar County, Forensic County lab up there testifying about gunshot residue. So yeah, they got into it heavily today.
Yeah, it's really a horrific case. If you suffer from PTSD or things of that nature, this one will really get you. And as they explained, the judge in this case said there's no live streaming allowed. There's no live video able. You're not able to rebroadcast any part of this trial. I believe that the opening by the prosecutor and by the defense and probably the closing will be live streamed, and that's going to be it. But unfortunately, we had some jagaloons. I don't know who it was or how many people it was, or was it TikTok? Was it YouTube? Was it a combination of different platforms? People took phones and snuck phones into the courtroom. And today there was drama on day 2, Ed. The judge had to call sidebars, and they didn't even get to any of the witness statements or any of the people coming up to the stand called by the state or till I think 1 p.m. Not just because of people sneaking phones in, but so many different arguments now by the defense and the prosecution. So this is causing a lot of already day 2. You got jagaloons in the courtroom. So I hope the judge, if they're caught, they get either arrested or fined and or both.
Yeah, I mean, what are you people doing? Are you looking to cause a mistrial here? What are you doing? Use your head, okay? You're stopping the wheels of justice here with your nonsense.
It's crazy. I'm going to play this little piece because this is going to give you, if you haven't followed the case, let us know in the chat if you followed the case along with us, because a lot of people did follow this when it was happening in late 2023, early 2024. If you haven't followed the case, let us know. This will give you a little background in about 2 minutes. We're going to get a full background on this case. But let us know if you are, if you have any knowledge of this horrific triple murder. And it involves, what makes it really heinous is it involves an unborn 9-month to term baby in the womb of the female victim, Savannah Soto. Horrible.
Christopher Preciado is getting underway this week. Now, he is charged with the murders of Savannah Soto, Matthew Guerra, and their unborn child. So here's a look back at this case that all started back in 2023. December 2023, Savannah Soto was expected to give birth to her son, but she would never arrive to her appointment to be induced. December 21st would be the last time anybody heard from her or her boyfriend, Matthew Guerra. After her family filed a missing persons report, it led police to issuing a statewide clear alert on Christmas Day. The case got national attention, but by December 26th, the family's worst nightmare became a reality. Soto and Guerra were found dead inside his vehicle at an apartment complex in Leon Valley. On December 28th, police released this video. A truck could be seen driving up next to Guerra's car. Two people appeared to be cleaning the door. On January 3rd, 2024, arrests were made.
Are you sorry for what happened?
19-year-old Christopher Preciado and his father Ramon Preciado arrested. The younger Preciado charged with capital murder, while Ramon was charged with tampering with evidence and abuse of a human corpse. Soto and Guerra's families didn't know the two men, but police said the exchange all started with a drug deal. Later, Mirta Romanos, Christopher's mother, was also arrested for allegedly trying to help cover up the crime.
That was definitely a relief of mine that, I can hold someone accountable. I've been talking about justice for the three of them since it started.
According to the arrest affidavit, Christopher told police that Guerra had pulled a gun at him and he was able to, quote, manipulate it, but in the process, Soto got shot. And again, that happened, and that's how Guerra got shot. But according to police, that statement didn't match crime scene evidence. In November 2025, Romanos was expected to go to trial, but when a reset for the case by the state was denied, all her charges were dismissed. A shock to the families who found out after KSAT posted about it on social media.
I don't know what's wrong with the district attorney's office or what are they doing? Why do they keep dragging everything?
Are you happy with how the case has been handled so
No,
far?
I'm not. I am not happy at all. None of us are happy at all. The whole world's not happy at all.
The case against Christopher Preciado would now move forward. Now we got to get a look at the witness list, and there are numerous officers from multiple agencies on it, as well as expert witnesses from the Bexar County Crime Lab and the Medical Examiner's Office. Also on the list, family members of the Guerra and Soto family, as well as Ramon Preciado and Mirta Romanos. So it'll be interesting to see who they will actually call up. Now, opening statements are expected to begin tomorrow morning.
So that was before opening statements. Ed, I did that purposely so people who not have any knowledge of this case, it goes all the way back to 2023. And if you remember, this case was so well covered that when we would go live with this case, we'd have to actually put it on like a slow mode. I don't know if you remember that, but we used to have to put the chat on slow mode because it was going off the rails. And as you could see, if you fast forward now to 2 years later, not many people follow it because we have a small attention span and there's so much crime. There's so many cases out there that so many people just forget about this one. But what really, really shocked me about this is that the perpetrator here, again, innocent until proven guilty, and that's where we're at today. Christopher Preciado knew, he had to have known that Matthew Guerra's girlfriend was full-term pregnant. You could not get in that car and not know that this woman had a humongous belly. She was, ready to be induced the next day.
It was a car seat for the baby.
Yeah. And ultimately, they took leaves and sticks and brush, we found out through court today. Not only did they put that baby seat on top of her after he savagely murdered her, allegedly, but they put leaves and brushes over this poor girl and took whatever time they needed to, because look, I have all the dates. The car and Matthew and Savannah were last seen on December 21st, right? That car video that you and I watched and broke down, where we have, this is a major piece of evidence for the prosecution. That car video was on December 23rd, which is Saturday. So they took their time, and God only knows where those three victims were for those days that led up, because don't forget, December 21st, they were going to meet him. So it happened sometime late December 21st, going into December 22nd. And now a whole freaking day went by before we see them on that video. And I'll play that for a few minutes. But Ed, your thoughts on the father. He is a free man out on bail. He's walking free. And the mother had the charges. Mirta had her charges dismissed. Okay, pending further investigation. But in my eyes, that is like, I mean, it takes it to another level when you see the mom, who we know was in that back of that pickup truck, threw that rag to the father.
Yeah, there was a conspiracy here between the parents and their child to cover up this crime. They were both arrested, first the father, then the mother, and charged with various crimes like tampering with evidence, tampering with a body, so forth and so on. And I don't know what the Bexar County prosecutor's office is doing and what were the issues with the mother's case and why it dragged out and they were asking for an extension. And I don't understand any of that, but it seems like they need to be held responsible for not properly dealing with the prosecution of the mother. Now, I don't understand why the father got bail. Why is he out? Okay, he's out on bond, and now I've been told that the judge ruled that he can come sit in the courtroom for this case.
Yeah,
I don't understand that either. Because he's technically he's got another trial coming. He got his own trial coming up as a part of this conspiracy. So I wouldn't think that would be appropriate.
Yeah, highly inappropriate. And the judge today made that ruling. That was another part of the delays. The mom, Myrta, who we're going to see in the back of the, we don't actually see her, but who's the third person that's there with them? We see the father, big round belly, get out. But this is the video of Christopher Preciado, his father, Ramon, and his mother, Myrta, coming to his aid and helping him park this vehicle with 3 sets of remains in it. This is December 23rd, some 3 days later, in the back of a Leon County housing complex where nobody goes and there's not a lot of traffic. And that car sat there until the day after Christmas, December 26th.
Well, that's not this particular location. This particular location was behind a commercial establishment. And then after they drive it to the other location,
which was just a short jump, right around
the corner.
Yep. So, I mean, this is just all in the same time frame. December 23rd is the date of this video. And I actually went on to the probable cause affidavit to grab that date. So let's look at it. There's no sound, but I'll go full screen and we'll see. There's the car come pulling up. It's bringing back vibes right here.
Mm-hmm.
There's 3 dead human beings in that car.
And he had to move the body of the decedent driver so that he could operate the vehicle.
Right. And the decedent driver is the boyfriend, Matthew Guerra, 22 years old at the time of this incident. We heard it in court today, and you and I discussed it when we read the probable cause affidavit. His pants were down to his ankles. So I don't know, and I think you were suggesting that possibly could have been from when they dragged his body from out of the driver's seat.
Driver's seat, yes.
Yeah. So we heard that confirmatory in court today. So let's take a look, and this is it. You're going to see a white rag being thrown out. Once you see the big belly dad, I think he's out now talking to the son. And this is, if they didn't have this video, this case wouldn't be as solid as it is. There it is. Boom. And he's wiping down, I believe, inside and then the outside of the vehicle.
I think the son tried to get out and he pushed the door closed.
Push him back.
And pushed him back in, pushed the door closed, and then got that rag from his wife who's inside the truck and started wiping down the exterior where he touched the door and everything.
Right.
And he's telling him to drive off to the location where they're going to finally ditch this car.
And imagine, ladies and gentlemen, as you look at this, again, lots of cases going on. This is old news, but this is a case that we will follow right through to the end of this trial. You see the perpetrator, the person who's on trial right now, Christopher Preciado, inside a vehicle with two people, human beings that he took their lives, and an unborn child inside the belly of Savanah Soto, drive up, and his mother and father willingly helped him move these bodies. You know, like you said, conspire to get rid of the evidence, get rid of these people, and they're free. This man right here begged and pleaded with the prosecution and with the district attorney's office during his incarceration, talking about he had diabetes, he had all kinds of health issues. Remember that whole rigmarole? And he finally won to get his bond. They issued him a bail.
They lowered the bail, and he was able to make it.
It's despicable. It's despicable. Ben McCoy in the chat. I tried to call him to see if he wanted to join us, but he did not pick up. So here's Ben saying Leon Valley is a city inside the city of San Antonio on the northwest side of town. Yeah, we have in the notes here, not only was Chief McManus holding press conferences, we saw Leon Valley Police. The Leon Valley Police Department is the police department that responded, I believe, from a Facebook message from someone who knew the family and said, hey, I think that Savannah and Matthew are in the car behind this particular apartment complex. And sure enough, they went there, and this lone Leon Valley cop had to kind of fend off people. We're going to play that body cam footage that was released in court today. So here, let's watch the rest of this. It's sickening that this guy is out walking and that he's going to be able to come into the courtroom. He is right here, knowing full well of what his heinous crime his son has committed and the heinous crime that he committed. And it's just insane, Ed. I watch this. I just get so angry, you know? Yeah, Becky, big time monsters. I mean, there's no other way of saying it, you know? Look, we're not going to get all the details of this right because, again, this is from 2023, but I appreciate you guys for the corrections. But Ed, you know, we heard from not only the EMS that first responded onto the scene, the first officer, but we also heard from some of the crime scene experts and, you know, various different experts from the field talking about gunshot residue and so forth today. And this is just day 2. So this trial is moving along. Your thoughts on crime scene and evidence collection? And, you know, they warned the family, hey, you may not want to be in court. And some of the family did step out, some didn't, for the presentation of these brutal, gruesome crime scene photos.
Yeah, that's always very hard for the family and for anybody for that matter, the jury as well. Now, you know, before trial, they go through all the photographs with the defense making objections to which photos they feel are prejudicial. And then the prosecutor will either agree and choose not to use those, or they'll fight it out, and then the judge makes a ruling on what's in, what's out in terms of the photographs. Yeah, but these photographs are going to be very graphic, okay? And so, you know, you have to warn the jury, you have to warn the people in the audience in the courtroom not to make any disturbances when these photographs are published for the jury to see. And you know, how it normally works is the photographer, the crime scene investigator, will be handed a pile of photographs by the prosecutor, and then they'll go through them, and then the prosecutor will say, do you recognize these photos? And you say, yes. Do you know what they are? Yes, these are photographs of the crime scene that I took for this investigation at this date and time. And are they fair and accurate representation of the crime scene as it was presented to you? Yes, and so forth. And then you go through, and then They get marked as evidence unless the defense objects. Again, but typically these photographs are dealt with before trial, so there shouldn't be any objections at that point. And they get moved into the evidence, and then they get marked as evidence, and then they're given back to the crime scene investigator. And one by one, they're made public and presented to the jury, and each photograph is explained as to what it is.
Yeah, and it has to get presented to the jury because they have to paint their case. They have to show everybody, what was, what the responding officers discovered and what happened to these victims. What kind of heinous crime was committed, again, by who they're trying to prove beyond a reasonable doubt has done this. Let's take a look. This is from day 1. Let's take a look at this, and then we'll get to your questions in the chat.
Top story tonight, jurors saw body camera video, autopsy photos, and listened to emotional testimony in the trial of Christopher Preciado. He's accused of killing Savannah Soto, her unborn son, and boyfriend Matthew Guerra in December 2023. Police say it was all over a drug deal.
Tonight, KENS 5 reporter Zach Briggs breaks down what happened on day 1 of the trial, and a warning tonight. What you're about to see is disturbing.
Loved ones of Savannah Soto, her boyfriend Matthew Guerra, and their unborn baby Fabian are demanding justice. Accused killer Christopher Preciado appeared calm during opening statements.
You're going to hear that they made choices that many of us would not make. But the penalty for those poor choices should not be execution. And the evidence is going to prove to you that on December 21st of 2023, that is exactly what Christopher Preciado did to them and their unborn baby. He executed them. And for no other reason than he needed money and Matthew had a lot of it.
Preciado's defense team stressed the jury's job is not to measure grief or assign moral blame.
What she did not say, and what we believe the evidence will show, is that there are no eyewitnesses for this offense. Nobody's going to testify that said they saw Christopher Preciado pull a trigger with any sort of intent or deliberation. There's no video evidence of this crime that took place.
Police body-worn camera revealed the frantic moments when relatives of the missing couple discovered their bodies inside Guerra's car on December 26, 2023. The day before, authorities issued a clear alert that stated
there she is, full-term pregnant. And again, like I said, there's no way in hell that Christopher Preciado did not know that she was pregnant. And he didn't have to shoot and kill her. If he had a dispute, as he said, with the boyfriend, and a gun went off, as he said, in a struggle, it was not necessary for him to shoot this poor girl. And again, there's many people that say these folks weren't living right. Yeah, I agree. Selling drugs is not a great thing. You play with fire, you get burned, but nobody deserved to be executed, and especially a pregnant mother, full term. This is just crazy. And Judge Jennifer Pena of the 290th District Court is the judge who's presiding over this case, and shame on her for allowing Ramon Preciado to be in that courtroom, and the mother, Myrta, for that matter. For those of you who are in the chat or outraged by it, let us know by putting a 1 in the chat if you're outraged by Judge Pena for her ridiculous ruling today in court.
Soto could be in a gray Kia Optima camera revealed the frantic moments when relatives of the missing couple discovered their bodies inside Guerra's car on December 26, 2023. The day before, authorities issued a clear alert that stated Soto could be in a gray Kia Optima. Detective Andy Griego with Leon Valley Police recalls responding to the welfare check turned crime scene.
I'm trying to protect the crime scene by pushing the family that had arrived away from the vehicle, because I had found 2 individuals that appeared to be deceased inside the vehicle.
And San Antonio firefighter.
And think about it. That guy was alone there with multiple people. We've been at many crime scenes where, I come pulling up, it's a shots fired call, and there's somebody shot inside a vehicle like this. We've had it many a times in the housing developments where I work, and we were able to get on the radio and have multiple units there in 30 seconds. This guy was alone, and he was trying to hold them back, and that's a difficult job.
Yeah, we've had that at crime scenes as well, on the streets where family members would show up and then try to rush past the safeguarding police officer and the crime scene tape to get to their loved one. And it's a traumatizing scene to allow that to happen, and then everybody has to calm the situation down and take control of the family members and tell them, look, you can't do this. You can't do this. We have to do the crime scene investigation. We can't have you manipulating this stuff. We can't have you in here damaging any of the evidence and so forth. So please, we understand you're grieving. Please work with us. I'm here to help you and your family. I'm here to help identify the perpetrators of your loved one's horrific crime.
That time, listening to some common sense doesn't prevail in these situations. It's just more of just sheer emotion and just people are just frantic. So it's difficult. We do our best, and most cops, but I saw this guy when I watched this today. I was like, shit, he had his hands full, and it's really, there's no real nice way to say, hey, you can't come and see your loved one. It's just a very difficult situation.
Yeah, and I tell them, you really don't want to see them like this.
Yeah.
Okay. I said the next time they're going to see them is at the medical examiner's office.
Correct.
Protect the crime scene by pushing the family that had arrived away from the vehicle, because I had found 2 individuals that appeared to be deceased inside the vehicle.
And San Antonio firefighter EMT Jeremiah Latta explained what he saw inside the car.
I saw a female on the front passenger side and then the male on the back side laying down with his lower half exposed. And I saw that there was plenty of blood in the back and enough blood in the front, and that there was a car seat on top of the female.
So Ed, the lower half exposed, I remember when this was a fresh case, when we were still speaking about it, it was in the probable cause affidavit, as I discussed earlier. There was people that were speculating that, the perpetrator tried to humiliate Matthew by pulling his pants down. But again, because you processed over 2,500 crime scenes in your career, from experience, to get a human body and a human who's now dead is basically dead weight, and there's no other nice way to put it. It's just solid weight. It's not the same. And to move that person that we're seeing here, Matthew Guerra, out of the driver's seat and getting him into the backseat of that vehicle, if you're doing it alone or even with a second person, the possibility of that happening, and especially if it's loose pants, is pretty easy, no?
Yes, very easy, especially, their feet are down by the pedals and underneath the steering wheel, and you're opening up the driver's door and you're trying to drag them out. So the strong possibility that, especially if you have the upper body of the decedent and you're trying to drag them out that way, it's very easy for the pants to be pulled down, especially if they're loose and, they're not, belted on tightly.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think that was pretty much it, what we got to see from body cam footage, and there's going to probably be a whole ton more that they didn't get a chance to talk about here. But Ed, crime scene photos, probably hundreds taken, Ed?
Well, I don't know about hundreds, but a good deal, a good amount of photographs just there in that parking lot, and then when the bodies were removed, there's going to be additional photographs taken. Sometimes at the scene, sometimes they may elect to take the bodies back to the medical examiners and do extensive photography work on the victims there. Then the vehicle is going to be towed back to a forensic garage and going to have additional photographs taken of the exterior, interior, before the forensic search of the vehicle is conducted.
Yeah, so we discussed earlier too about gunshot residue. The perpetrator allegedly shot both victims from behind, from the back seat. And from what we gleaned from the probable cause affidavit, isn't it, correct my memory if I'm wrong here, wasn't it Ramon's, the father's weapon that was used? Or was that did that ever come out about the weapon that was used?
I believe it was the family's weapon.
Because it was recovered in the parents' bedroom inside the closet, I believe. Is that correct? I think so. Hey, Ben, you're here in the chat. I know it's a case. He lives locally. So let us know if we're on that. I know he's listening closely. So thank you to Ben McCoy for being here. Let's take a listen to this. This is the gunshot residue expert testimony from day 2 from today.
And it's good to be with you. I'm Henry Ramos. Our top story at 5, 90 minutes of grueling testimony in the Christopher Preciado capital murder trial. Today, jurors heard from an evidence technician who processed the disturbing scene where a pregnant woman and her partner were found dead in their car more than 2 years ago. Now, the next person on the stand was an expert in gunshot residue. Our Sue Calvert has been in the courtroom since the beginning. Sue, a lot to unpack here. What did jurors learn today?
People saying it was the mom's gun. Residue.
Yes, I remember it was the family's, and it was in the closet, I believe, at the house.
Right. Yeah. I was close. Look, if it's the moms, it's the dads. If it's the dads, it's the moms. They're both responsible for the weapons. But yeah, I think it was registered to her. And the crazy part is she had all of her charges dropped.
Yeah.
Figure.
Yeah. These DAs have to be held responsible.
Yeah, this Bexar County leaves a lot to be desired.
Bear County. You don't pronounce X in Spanish.
Bear County leaves a lot to be desired. So.
Well, the woman who testified is with the Bexar County Crime Lab, and she has extensive training in firearms evidence. She actually brought a model of a bullet to share with the jurors, and she talked about what happens when somebody pulls the trigger, both and the hard facts that are left behind, both in the gun and where the slug ends up.
So what I'm looking for whenever I'm looking for primer gunshot residue are the components of this primer cap here. And it traditionally contains the elements lead, barium, and antimony. And those are evaporated from that explosion, and they will condense back together to form particles that have a specific shape and size.
Okay. Ron? Yep. Okay, so folks, on the back of a centerfire cartridge, what she showed you there in that model is what's called a primer. All right. The primer is a primary explosive. When the firing pin strikes that metal, it leaves a tool mark of the firing pin from the firearm that was used on that primer. When that firing pin hits it, it causes the primary explosives to explode, sending sparks into the main body of the cartridge case where the smokeless gunpowder is, and ignites the smokeless gunpowder, which then burns very rapidly and creates gases, and those gases force the bullet projectile out of the cartridge and down the barrel and exiting the gun. Now, following the bullet, in front of the bullet, you're going to have soot, and you're going to have a flame, and you're going to have burnt and unburnt gunpowder residue. But behind the bullet is coming the gunshot residue from the primer, and it consists of those 3 heavy metals that she mentioned: barium, antimonium, and lead. Now, it gets vaporized when it explodes, but in the barrel of the gun, it sears together and forms a molten sphere of those 3 heavy metals: barium, antimonium, and lead. And then it expels from the barrel of the gun, and depending on the target to muzzle to target distance and intermediary targets, this residue will fly out and land on surface. Okay. And in this case, you're in the interior of a vehicle. So it's a confined space. And so the gunshot residue is going to be all over the place. Okay. And how we search for something like that on headliners and seat cushions and seat fabrics and dashboards and so forth, and even the victim's clothing, in their hair, depending on where the wounds are. You may have what's called stippling, which is from those burnt and unburnt gunpowder coming out and searing into the skin, and it makes it look like freckles, or what we call tattooing on the skin. And then, we can replicate that pattern with the gun and the ammo, so we know what the distance was from the victim when the injury was sustained. Now, what we do is we'll search the interior of this vehicle. And if I may, let me just see if I can do this. I'm going to share a screen. Okay. Let's see. Okay, that's open. Let me just make this large.
Ed, are you wearing nitrile gloves?
I am, because I was about to touch some fingerprint stuff that are very dirty, and I didn't want to get that stuff on my hands. Plus, because we're going to talk about fingerprints here too, because that was part of the testimony today. Share, right? Is this share?
Yes. For those of you joining, this is the trial of Christopher Preciado. He stands accused of capital murder. He does not face the death penalty. The prosecutor did not decide to go for the death penalty. So if he's convicted of the top charges, he will face life in prison. He is being charged with capital murder. That's the murder of 3 individuals, including the unborn child of Savanah Soto. And again, this is Bexar County District Attorney chose to not go after the death penalty, which is on the books in Texas.
All right. Can everybody see this? Am I sharing it?
No, hold on. I got to remove mine, and then hold on. Let me remove it totally. Hold on. Stop screen. There we go. What do we got?
Okay. So one of the first tools that we use that are non-destructive in the search for gunshot residue patterns is infrared photography. So that's a Fuji infrared camera up there. This is a black T-shirt. If you look at the upper right photograph with the ABFO scale in the upper left corner, you'll see a black T-shirt. And in this black T-shirt are 2 bullet holes. And one contains a large amount of blood, and both of them contain gunshot residue. But you can't see it with your naked eye because of the black material. So I need to use infrared photography to get contrast and then highlight the gunshot residue. So if you look at the bottom photo, let me see if I can zoom this in. Is it going larger? Ron?
Yes.
Did I make it larger?
Yes.
Okay, so now you see the gunshot residue patterns around the bullet holes in the shirt that was originally black, but this is the infrared photography. And now you can see the speckles of burnt and unburnt gunshot residue, and you can see a kind of a soot pattern close up around the bullet hole. So that gives me a suggestion of the muzzle to target distance here. So this is one way we search on like vehicles or clothing. And then the next way we use is alternate light source. So this is a forensic light source. And what it allows me to do is to dial in different wavelengths of light from infrared, Roy G. Biv, the rainbow colors, right, all the way to UV, and search for that gunshot residue on this particular black clothing. Again, you see the upper right photograph, you can't really see it. But when I use the UV and an orange filter, now I can see all of the gunshot residue patterns that are on this clothing. Now, we can also do this in the interior of a car. When you bring the car back to a forensic garage, you shut off the lights and you do your infrared photography and document that. Then you do your alternate light source searches, and then you use your alternate light source photography techniques using an orange barrier here to filter this out. And then you collect this, and then we bring it to the lab, and then we can do a series of chemical tests, one being a modified Grice test and the other being a sodium rhodizonate test for lead. In addition, okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
Okay,
all right.
I'm back.
All right. In addition,
wait, there's more.
These are gunshot residue collection kits. Okay, I have one for the right hand, one for the left hand, and one for a face. But we can also use these on material, fabrics, headliner in the vehicle, the fabric of the seats, and so forth. And what you're looking at here is a scanning electron microscope pedestal with a carbon tape on the top of the pedestal. And so what you do with this in the form of clothing or fabric, you just tap it. On hands, you tap the hands, left hand, right hand, and then the face. You have 3 of these, one for the face, one for the left hand, one for the right hand. But on clothing, you just tap the clothing, okay? And then you're going to package this up in a container. You're going to voucher it. You're going to label it. You're going to send it to the lab to have them do a scanning electron microscopy analysis of this and elemental analysis using the X-ray portion of the scanning electron microscope. And what ends up happening is you get this to the lab people will take this pedestal out of the container, and you see the end, and then you'll put this inside a scanning electron microscope stand and lock it in there. And what ends up happening is the scanning electron microscope will scan the entire top of this carbon tape, looking for the molten sphere of barium, antimonium, and lead, and they will detect it, and the X-ray diffraction will then do the elemental analysis and tell you, yes, there are spheres here of barium, antimonium, and lead, and that is consistent with the primer residue, and then they'll tell you how much of it is there. Okay. Now, typically, we don't use this on people anymore. We don't do it on the hands because, like in this case, it doesn't definitively tell you if the gunshot residue is present that the individual fired a gun. In that environment, inside of that vehicle, you have this gunshot residue floating in the environment once the firearm has been discharged. So I can't say that, in fact, they fired a gun. Now, I had this same situation in the Club New York shooting with Jennifer Lopez and Puff Daddy. I was ordered to do a gunshot residue test on Jennifer Lopez, Puff Daddy, and their bodyguard's driver, okay? And I kept arguing with the chief that, look, they were in a club where multiple gunshots were fired. And they were then arrested at gunpoint and handcuffed by officers who touched their guns. And I can't say if the gunshot residue comes back positive on their hands that it was from discharging a firearm inside of Club New York. So we really shouldn't be doing this test. And that's the FBI's advice to us about doing these tests as well. I do it in limited cases of potential suicides with a firearm where the crime scene has not been altered in any way and no law enforcement touched anything, and it's a pristine scene. Okay, then I will do gunshot residue on somebody's hands. So that said, that's how they would search in this vehicle and collect samples to conduct analysis.
Well, Ed, that was very educational. And so, I mean, you said it in layman's terms, which is great for people to understand. But here in this case, Ramon and Murtha, their weapon alleged was used to murder Savannah and Matthew. This type of testing and all different types of forensics as it pertains to these weapons, to a weapon, won't this refute the story that he is telling, that he had a gun pulled on him by Matthew, which that gun was never recovered, his alleged gun? Won't the ballistics be able to come straight back to that weapon that was recovered inside of the bedroom in the closet of the Preciado home? No?
Yes. So, yes, what's going to happen here with that, the gunshot residue isn't going to help in that regards, other than the fact that they now have the gun and they have the ammunition and they can do control tests to get the muzzle to target distance of the victims. With that said, yes, the firearms tool mark examiner is going to be able to take the cartridges, not the cartridges, because they didn't recover a cartridge. They recovered a full cartridge with the projectile from the car. They can match that up to say, hey, it's the same ammo that's in the gun when recovered from the mother in the closet in their house. But then they'll get the bullets from the autopsy, and they'll do a series of test shots in a water tank, retrieve those bullets, and then compare the bullets recovered from the victims to the bullets test fired to see if they match from the gun that was fired,
and
from the mother's gun.
On this, Ed, where you showed this, I don't remember what case it was, but we definitely have a special on this technique that you talked about with shooting into the water and so forth. You even had we had a discussion of the actual mock subway car that you created for that shooting. Yeah, lots of fascinating stuff. Maria Del Carmen, thank you so much for becoming a new member.
See, here's the problem with his story. He's saying that the male victim in this case produced the gun, and he struggled from the back seat because the two victims were in the driver's seat and the front passenger seat, and he struggled with the gun. It's his mother's gun.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did the driver get his mother's gun?
Right.
Okay, that dog don't hunt.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, shout out to Joey Brooklyn, Princess Mitch, and everybody that's here in the chat. There's a lot that won't jive here, but this trial is just starting. So let's take a listen to this from today. Again, another little piece from local reporting.
In the Christopher Preciado trial brought a noticeable shift in pace, but not in intensity. Preciado is accused in the 2023 murder of Savannah Soto, Matthew Guerra, and their unborn son. Jurors spent much of the afternoon viewing dozens of crime scene photos, a moment that proved especially painful for the victim's family. KSAT 12's Erica Hernandez joins us now from outside that courtroom. And Erica, we understand the security inside has been increased. So why is that?
Yeah, Ernie, at times more than 10 deputies could be seen inside the courtroom. On average, there's only about 2 or 3 inside on a regular day or docket day. Court officials telling me this is all because they've had some issues in the past with some family members, as well as such the strict rules inside the 290th was the reasoning behind the increase on that security. Now, as far as testimony today, a lot of it had to do with the crime scene. The first witness that was on the stand today was crime scene investigator who photographed and processed the scene. Photos from inside the car of Savannah Soto and Matthew Guerra were shown, which was hard for family members to see and too graphic for us to show. But there was blood all over the front and back seats of the car. The investigator said, though, no fingerprints could be found, but one bullet was found in the back seat floorboard near Guerra.
Ed, how was there no fingerprints found in that vehicle of this perp? I mean, that's the question that maybe everybody in this chat has.
It's not just fingerprints, it's DNA too. But, you know, we saw the father wipe down the outside of the vehicle. You know, we don't know what they did when they got to the other location where they finally left. Now, that's not a bullet. That is known as a full cartridge. Okay, it has the whole cartridge case, the primer, and the projectile, the bullet. So it's not a loose bullet. It is a cartridge. So somehow that cartridge got out of the gun, whether he jacked it out or whatever the case may be, and hopefully they were able to match that back to the ammunition that was in the gun recovered from the mother's closet and so forth. Now, just because you touch something doesn't mean you're going to leave fingerprints. It depends on the surface. It depends on how much pressure you have. It depends on if your friction ridges are contaminated, and with materials that can then transfer the ridge detail to a different surface. It also depends on the cleanliness of the surface you're touching. If the surface is dirty, it is not conducive to accepting fingerprints, and so forth and so on.
Let me also bring up an interesting fact that we did talk about earlier. The date of this incident is sometime between Thursday, December 21st, 2023, and the early morning hours of Friday, December 22nd. Savannah was supposed to go into the hospital early Friday morning and never showed up. The car with the remains inside of it was not discovered until December 26th, the day after Christmas. And that was from a caller or a tip from somebody on Facebook, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, all my true crime enthusiasts. But I believe somebody messaged the family on Facebook, and then the family in turn, or the family might have called 911, or somebody called 911, and everybody converged simultaneously onto that apartment complex. So between the 21st and the 26th is 5 days. So in 5 days, our friend who just became a channel member, Maria Del Carmen, she made a good point. I'm going to go back to it if I can find it. Maria Del Carmen said the vehicle might have been detailed.
I don't think so, because from the time they were seen in that surveillance video to the time where the vehicle was, the two bodies were in there, and there was blood everywhere.
But how long did they have that vehicle before they deposited it in the back of that complex? So,
yeah, but you're not going to take it to a detail shop with two dead bodies and blood all over the place in the interior of the vehicle. You're going to wipe it down. You're going to do as best you can.
She was saying detailed by them, meaning not professionally.
Well, I don't know what she said detailed. I don't think they did a full detail, but they wiped it down, definitely.
Yeah. Hey, don't just disregard these two people in the car. Could you just clean it up? No, she was speculating that they might have detailed the car up and cleaned it themselves, which is a possibility. So again, let's take a listen to this.
Was blood all over the front and back seats of the car. The investigator said, though, no fingerprints could be found, but one bullet was found in the back seat floorboard near Guerra. We also got a closer look at that baby car seat that was found on top of Soto. Now, Mitha Romanos has been in court this week in support of her son.
So she was saying Mirtha Romanos was in court at both days to support her son. This is the mother who came in that black pickup truck and threw that rag out to her husband to clean up any type of evidence along the side of the vehicle, while her son sat in the driver's seat with 3 dead people in it, including an unborn child. Unbelievable. It's mind-blowing to me that the court allowed the mother, and the father hasn't showed up yet, but imagine the hoopla that's going to happen when he shows up there. Mr. Roly-Poly, Ramon Preciado. It's not going to be good. I'll tell you that right now.
Now, during the lunch break today, there was a hearing held on whether Ramon Preciado, Christopher's father, could be allowed to sit in during the trial, and the judge did grant that. So it'll be interesting moving forward to see if he does show up here in court. Now,
He'd have a brass pair of balls if he shows up at that courthouse.
Oh, he's going to. He's going to. I mean, the mother's doing it too, and so does she. Okay. So getting back to the detective who testified today, he said that he processed the outside of the vehicle for latent fingerprints with conventional fingerprint powder and brushes. So I just wanted to show the folks, what that in fact looks like. Okay. So we have 2 types of, we actually have several types of brushes, but the most common people use nowadays is is a fiberglass brush, or sometimes we refer to it as a name brand called the Zephyr brush. Okay, so you flare this out, and you're going to pour out a little powder, either white fingerprint powder if the surface is dark, or black fingerprint powder if the surface is light. You're going to pour a little of that out into a receptacle that you can throw away. Like, hey, here's a good use for a Solo cup.
Oh, geez.
But it's got to be clean, okay, that you provide. But no, we use clean paper bags and pour a little powder in there. We dip the powder in there, and then we go over the surface like so, back and forth. And then the powders will adhere to the sebaceous gland material of the fingerprints. So that is the fiberglass type brush. The other type of brush that we use is actually a feather duster, okay? And this is what this looks like, okay? Okay, here's the feather duster, but again, you flare this out, okay? You dip a little powder, okay, white or black, depending on what you're using. And it's one-time use with these brushes, because once you develop a fingerprint, now this brush is contaminated with potential DNA from the fingerprint. Okay, right. So you can't keep reusing it. It's got to be thrown away. Yeah. All right, so then you process slightly for fingerprints. And then once you find the fingerprint, you're going to photograph it with and without scale. And before you attempt to lift it, then you're going to grab your fingerprint tape. Depending on the surface that it's on, you're going to grab your fingerprint tape, pull out a section. You're going to put it over, no air bubbles, smooth it out, lift it, and then you're going to put that tape down on a fingerprint card, a white card for black tape, okay, and a black card for white powder lift, okay? Now, there's other ways that we can process as well, or lift. In this case, we could use this material called microsil, and it comes in a white, black, gray, brown, and it's a two-part mixture with a hardener and a silicone casting material. And then you mix the two parts together, and you smooth it over with a tongue depressor, or an ice pops. Here, let me get it.
Ed is fishing for his stuff in the kit.
So an icicle stick, and you clean icicle stick, and you smooth it over the fingerprint, and you let it dry, and then you peel it up, and now you lifted it that way. And there's other types of, like for the interior of the vehicle, I would use crazy glue fume. It's a perfect, we do that here all the time in the NYPD. We use crazy glue for the interior of the vehicle. We have these things called hot shots, and it's a looks like a prescription bottle, and it has a heating element in it, and a little on top of the heating element is a little bowl, a metal bowl that you pour your crazy glue into, and on the bottom is a little hole that you puncture, because inside the canister is a powder that will react with a liquid that you pour into bottom to create heat, and it basically boils the crazy glue into fumes, and then it'll fume inside of the vehicle and adhere to the fingerprints that are present and make them visible. Now, what we do there is we put a test print on an acetate card and hang it in by the front windshield, and then when we see that fingerprint develop, once it's developed, we have to stop the fumes from continuing. So we open up all the doors and we air the car out. Once we air the car out, we may throw some powder on top of it to enhance it, or some chemicals. And then we do the lift the same method. And just because we fume that surface doesn't mean we can't get DNA from what's left behind after we do the lifting. In addition, another method that we use is a product called small particle reagent. This is a liquid. Okay, so if you have a wet surface that may have fingerprints on it, you could wait for it to dry, or you can actually use this when it's wet and just let this, you squirt this out above it and let it run down over the surfaces. And what this is basically, it's like a dishwashing liquid with suspended fingerprint powder in it, for an easy way to understand what this actually is.
Right.
And you let it run down, and then you spray a little water, and the powders will adhere to the fingerprints, and then you rinse away all the other residue, and now all you're left with is the fingerprints, and then you photograph, and then you lift. In addition, there's this kit, and if you could read what it says there, iodine fuming kit. Okay, this is old school fingerprint work, and iodine is very dangerous, so you have to wear the proper protection when dealing with that. And then we have another kit, and this is the lightning powder spray fingerprint kit. Okay, and so fingerprint powders.
I want to ask you quick before you continue. If you are dispatched to a crime scene right now, you have enough equipment to fully process a crime scene.
Well, I'm an independent crime scene investigator, and licensed private investigator. So yeah, I have all my own forensic equipment. My garage is filled with forensic equipment, and so I have it all. So this kit, it comes with these little teepees that you open up and you put over surfaces. And let me just do that.
And I want to just say quickly before you open that, I want to say thank you to everybody who's here. And there is a couple of people who there's one person in particular in the chat, Heavy Hook. Thank you for being a channel member, and thank you for expressing the different thoughts from the family's perspective, because he stated that he has connections or knowledge or knows of some of the people who were involved in the victims' families here. So again, we're doing this coverage obviously to bring light to this case, but at the same time we're doing this coverage because we want justice for the victims, and the victims are Savannah, Matthew, Guerra, and their unborn son, Fabian. So, and the surviving families are why we do these live streams. This is important to, bring this together and let people understand is that you're not forgotten. These cases take years to come to fruition, and this is important. Ed, go ahead. Let's see that.
Okay, so when you open this up, it looks like this. And then you have a can of fingerprint powder, and they come in all different colors. This one is red WAP. It's a fluorescent fingerprint powder. This one is silver gray. All right. And then you would go back here and you would spray if you want to hit a specific target. If you're doing like the whole outside of a car, you can just spray. And then with this kit, it comes with guaranteed DNA-free single-use disposable brushes that you can then powder that surface after you sprayed to clean up the fingerprint. And then from there, it's the conventional tape and lift method. So that's another way. There's multiple ways to get at this. And then if it's a paper surface, like you want to fingerprint an envelope or something like that, you don't use powders. You send this to the lab, and then we use a chemical that's made from wood pulp called ninhydrin, and we'll either use the spray ninhydrin or we'll dip this in a ninhydrin solution, and it will adhere to fingerprints on paper and so forth. So there's many ways to do that. Now, I was shocked that they said they didn't find any DNA in this vehicle. Okay. He was sitting in the back seat. This would have been a perfect crime scene to use the MVAC at a garage, right? At the forensic garage, and MVAC the whole back seat of the car and the headrest and the back of the front seats, the seatbelt. I would have taken the seatbelt, cut it right out and submitted it to the lab, or MVAC'd it if I was doing MVAC. I would, the door handles on the interior and exterior. I can't. I mean, did they really wipe this car down that good that this guy didn't leave any? Especially if he said, quote unquote, there was a struggle. There should have been DNA all over there.
Look at this kid's hair. It's long, super long hair. This is the walkout from 2020. I believe it was early 2024 when these guys got collared. So this is the father being walked out of the Bexar County central booking. Again, we're going back to 2023, late 2023, early 2024. Free man out on bail.
Why did you do it? Are you sorry for what happened? Did you know Savannah was 9 months pregnant? She was 9 months pregnant. You have to say to her family. You have to say to your family.
Hey guys, we're going this way.
Remember how amazed we were that the press was able to get that close to them?
Yes.
In New York, we don't allow that. We kind of keep them back.
I said it reminded me of the JFK assassination when Lee Harvey Oswald was walking out and Jack Ruby came up and shot him. I mean,
crazy.
Anything to say to your family? Hide the evidence.
All right, here comes the kid now. Look at how long his hair is.
Yeah.
You're gonna tell me that he had a struggle in the back seat with Matthew Guerra, and not one strand of this freaking hair didn't come out? I don't buy it.
I mean, see, again, we would do a tape lift. We would take 3-inch wide fingerprint tape and then roll it around our finger, adhesive out, and then tape lift the entire fabric of the back seat. We'd break it up into section: left side, right side, headliner, left side, headliner, right side, left door, right door, and the backs of the front seats and the floor. We would tape lift everything.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just, for me, I cannot wrap my head around that there was not one piece of DNA in that vehicle. And again, you say many times, and I'm not saying it's with this case, but you always say the investigation and the evidence that's collected is only as good as the people collecting it, right?
That's correct. That's it. He had that long dark hair. There's no way that some of that didn't fall out.
Right.
And his clothes should have been taken from him. He should not be wearing the same clothes that he was arrested in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, look, this looks like a central booking location to me, or maybe it's someone saying that it's headquarters, but whatever. It doesn't matter. This is the walkout, and we're showing you guys this because this is the person who's on trial for triple murder. He stands capital murder, stands accused of murdering Matthew Guerra, Savannah Soto, and their unborn child, baby Fabian, on the night of December 21st or 22nd, early morning hours. And it's just amazing that not 1 ounce of spit, and he's overweight. And I hate, look, I'm a fat guy myself, so I could say this. He's fat. And he should have sweat. He should have broke a sweat if he had any type of skirmish or scuffle. And again, he's sitting in the backseat of the car, according to him, and he shoots her first and then shoots him second. Those were his.
Now, mind you, he was arrested days later, and this probably isn't the clothing that he was wearing that night. And I don't know if they ever did recover the clothing that he was wearing that night.
Right. And some people remember when we first played this, they were like, is that a guy or a girl? There was some people who were questioning, like, his if it was a guy or a girl early on in this thing. But we know that he's a male and he has long hair, no facial hair. I don't know if, he had it at the time and then he shaved or this is how he was. We don't know. But yeah, it's interesting to see this, and then to hear in court that there was no DNA, period. And the district attorney in her opening said that, they're going to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he did in fact kill these three individuals. And at the end of the day, the defense is going to question every step of this thing. And he said the attorney for Christopher, his defense attorney, said there's no video evidence of the crime. There's no DNA linking back to my client. There's all this stuff that they're going to try to bring up during.
What about the ballistics?
Yeah. That's going to be a big one to overcome, but you know how they get down with that too, Ed. So listen, this is day 1 and day 2. I want to also quickly acknowledge some of the folks who became channel members. Michael Joseph Murray, thank you for being a member for 29 months. It's always good to see you. Kimberly Gutierrez, thank you for being here for 15 months. Thunder 1966. That was a very good year. Thank you for being a member for 23 months. It's so good to see everyone. With love always. Maria, thank you for becoming a new member. And Chai Crimes, member for 6 months. Justice for Fabian, Matthew, and Savannah. Amen to that. Beamer, thank you for being a member for over 25 months. Thank you, Ed, for your expertise. We greatly appreciate all the time and effort that you put into this stuff, Ed.
I just got to say something, Mike. Don't take this the wrong way. Michael Joseph Murray, 3 first names, right? And it's like that's like serial killer stuff right there.
He's the furthest from it, but yeah, very good man. Always great to see you. Mo Preciado, thank you for being here. Does anyone know where I can watch the full trial? It's not. The judge is not allowing it to be live streamed, and there's just going to be updates daily from some of the local news 4, and some of the other let me see, there's one that's doing live tweeting or it's KSAT. I want to just go to their website real quick. Hold on a second. Stand by. KSAT.com. So this is where you could go for play-by-play. Mo Preciado, this is where you could go to get updates during the court day. So thank you, Lori Shortlegs, for the $3 super sticker. And again, this is not one of the most popular things that's out there right now, but that's not why we're going live here tonight. Why we're going live is because we have been covering this case very, very, we went into great details with this before and during the arrest of these perpetrators. It was 3 of them. Now we're down to just 1.
No, 2.
Yeah, 2. But I'm saying right now we're dealing with 1, and we're hopeful when the father's case comes up that they don't take a soft approach on this and they go at him full force, because the mother and the father had full knowledge that their son murdered 3 people. And they helped him. God forbid, you ask yourself, if your son or your daughter comes home and says to you, I did something really bad, and it was something to this extent, would you still, and you have to take a close look at yourself to answer this question. Would you try to aid and abet your son and help him clean up a triple murder? The answer for me is hands down no. It's a hell no. It's a hell no, no way. I'll get you the best attorney that we can get, and let's turn yourself in. That's it. They didn't do that.
Nope.
All right. I want to thank everybody, the replay viewers, the moderators, the super chatters. We're going to keep watching and following this. If anything forensic wise comes up, the medical examiner is going to have to come on and give testimony if she hasn't or he hasn't already. There's going to be talks about autopsies. Those that conversation, those days are going to be difficult at best, but it's going to be pretty straightforward, right, Ed?
I'm guessing tomorrow, because that evidence is going to be crucial. It's going to show you the distance, whether there was gunshot residue around the entrance wounds, where the entrance wound was, what the trajectory was when it entered the body. If it was perforating, I believe it was just penetrating where the bullet stayed inside. I don't believe it was entrance and exit. So we're going to get all that information. We'll see how that jives with the defense story.
Yeah, and we already know what the defense story is. The defense story is that this was a drug transaction gone wrong, and that the alleged drug dealer, which was Matthew Guerra, attacked Christopher Preciado, which, in my opinion, is bullshit, hogwash, and it's never going to hold, as they say, hold water. What movie is that from? The defense's case does not
hold water. No, the defense is wrong.
Marissa Tomei. I want to send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to the prosecutors who are taxed with charging this case and proving beyond a reasonable doubt. I want to hope and pray for strength for both families, the Preciado, Matthew Guerra's family, the Soto family. Listen, as far as the perps here, Christopher Preciado and his family, as far as I'm concerned, they are the worst of the worst. These are monsters. You are subhuman if you condone this and try to cover this up the way they did. So for me, I send them ungats. To the victims, both sides, and the families, the grandmas, all the people who are hurting from these losses. We send you strength and prayers and positive vibes. And for those of you who say, "Oh, if you want to live wrong, this is what you get," I don't believe in that. Nobody deserves this, no matter how, whatever you want to call him, a drug dealer doing, something that she shouldn't have been there, going with him to do these trends. You could say all that you want, but no one deserves to be executed. And that's what happened here. Ed, final words.
Hey, Ben, I just want to let you know that I trained many of the Bexar County Forensic Institute medical examiner death investigators, and they're great people. I trained those death investigators, a lot of them up here in New York City when I was at the New York City Medical Examiner's Office. Great people. And they are sharp. I can't speak for the pathologists and so forth because I didn't train them. But the scene response death investigators, I trained, and I know they know what they're doing there. That said, folks, I want to thank you all for being here tonight for this hour in almost 51 minutes that we've been going. And I know you can get your true crime fix anywhere you like. And it's an honor that you spend your time with us, and we appreciate you spreading the word about us and so forth. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. And as always, folks, stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six.
Amen to that. Thank you all for watching, the replay viewers. If you have any questions or comments, put it down below in the comment section. We love to continue the conversation after the live is over. And that's the best way to continue this conversation, is down in the comment section. If you're new, let us know that you're new and where you're watching from in the comments down below. We always like to acknowledge our replay viewers and folks who leave super thanks. And the buy me a cups of coffee. Ed, we stay caffeinated all day, every day, because people continually buy us those cups of coffee. So thank you to everybody. On the 24th, which is in a couple of days from now, I'm going to get some results back from speaking with my neurosurgeon about my back. That's going to be key. And I want to thank everybody who's prayed for good results, because we got some good results in my scan. So thank you to everybody. And thank you for being here and continuing to subscribe and like this channel. On behalf of Crime Time with DutyRon and Ed Wallace, we'll see you soon. Peace and love, and we'll talk to you on the next one. Good night, people.